Good evening, and welcome to the first post-election Tom Murphy show in the age of Trump. Before we get started with our guest tonight, I just want to clear something out because there's been a lot of different opinions back and forth. But to all the people who are saying give Trump a chance, here's why the honeymoon for me is over and why I marched on Saturday with my sisters in New York City. The Trump Republican leadership has pledged to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and they have proposed tax cuts for the extremely wealthy. So in essence, the rich are going to be enriched by hurting the elderly, the sick, and children. I'm not willing to sit around and wait for that to happen. Those on their face are cruel and immoral acts. The Trump Republicans have sworn to take away a woman's right to choose by opposing both abortion rights and access to contraceptives. They're also intent on taking away the hard-won civil rights of gay Americans. Should we just sit passively around waiting for all of those injustices to come to fruition before we act on an ex post facto basis? They planned on ending Obamacare without a replacement that makes sense. That'll take away health care from 20 million Americans, 2 of whom are my children. Should I sit passively around waiting for that to happen? Hey, maybe he was just kidding. I don't know where a lot of you wait and see folks grew up, but where I grew up, when a guy said he was going to hit me, I took him at his word and I put my hands up. I didn't wait to see if he was serious. With that editorializing being said, we have tonight a longtime friend of the show. Mr. Phil Reisman, a Westchester celebrity, has joined us here tonight. Phil.
I don't know what to say now, Tom. That's it. I love the Globe. I always love the Globe.
Remember
Westchester's in there
remember
somewhere.
Professor McBragg?
Yeah.
He had the Globe. That's what it always reminds me. You have to be of a certain age to remember Professor McGregor.
Right. There you go. Very nice. Well, thanks for having me today, Tom.
Oh, Phil,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for coming.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And tonight it's a very stormy,
It
windy
is.
night.
It's a dark and stormy night.
Yeah.
In a dark and stormy world.
So, Phil, let's talk about the presidential election.
Sure.
There's been a seismic shift
Right.
in American politics. Did you ever think
Right.
you'd see this?
No, I mean it's shocking actually.
Yeah.
Although I'm not surprised by where we're at now with the inauguration and the speech he gave. I mean, he's very. Give the guy one thing: he's consistent. I mean,
Yes, yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
and the inauguration was kind of strange. I mean, it was dystopian. It was bleak, really.
It was graceless.
You're a politician. And I mean that in the best sense of the word. You know that when you start a term of office, you start off with at least a minimal expression of optimism, and I feel that was. And I'm not exactly an optimistic person, but I require that from my leaders. At least a semblance of hope and progress. And I think he blew it.
You know what? Every good speaker at an inauguration, they also talk about what's good in America.
Right.
What's great in America, and why we should be proud to be Americans.
Right.
And you got none of that.
Yeah.
And whether you're Republican, or Democrat, or Independent, that's something that he had a chance to unite us.
He did. I'm not saying that would have been successful because I think there are people. I tend to be more in the center on things, and I think there are people that just don't want him to succeed also. But having said that, he needed to make a speech saying, look. Instead of bragging about the size of the crowd that's there or whatever, or how great his election was, which was, was not by any stretch of anyone's imagination, even somebody with an ego, the size of, 1,000 grapefruits, or, cannot say that was a mandated or some kind of landslide. It wasn't. But he needed to say exactly what you just said. Try to come up with some way of expressing a uniting of all the people in the country. 29% of Hispanic men voted for him. A certain large number of women voted for him. He should say, I want to build on this to include everyone in these categories who didn't vote for me. And say something to that this is a country where it's not just white men over here and black women over here and gay Americans over here. Everybody's related.
Exactly.
Those guys that voted for him that everybody says, oh, it's just all unemployed white guys. They have wives, they have daughters, and they have relatives who might not be, heterosexual, and all of those people are connected. We're all connected, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, and
you know?
I just want to touch on one thing, and because a lot of times people on my side
Right.
of the fence will say, "Oh, everybody who voted for him is a racist," and I don't believe that because I know a lot of guys that voted for him.
Right.
And it's not taking into account
I don't believe
the
it either.
absolute anger. I would think that every racist probably voted for him, but not everybody who voted for him is a racist.
Well, he gave. Let's put it this way: he gave succor to
Yeah.
to the
some nasty elements in our society.
right. What's his name? Spencer.
Yeah.
Robert Spencer. I
The
forget
guy
his
who got
Yeah,
slaughtered
he got
out there.
got sucker punched in Washington.
Which isn't right either.
Hey, listen, no, it's not. But I'll tell you something. You lead with your chin, expect to get,
Yeah, every once. Yep.
I mean, as a matter of fact, I was thinking on my way over here, Tom, I was thinking, that, and this is an outrageous thing, and I'm going to tell your audience that I think dueling ought to come back, because if you're going to say stuff, back it up.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
I don't think Trump would be president if dueling was still an accepted way of hammering out differences among men or women.
Pull
for
out
that
the
matter.
glove and.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everybody's comparing this guy to Andrew Jackson, when Andrew Jackson became president because, his positions are, revolutionary and they're different and he's anti-establishment, just like Andrew Jackson was, in many respects. But Jackson fought or was challenged or was involved in somewhere or another about 100 duels.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I would have to expect that all those little tweets out there insulting people's wives or,
Yeah.
or
Awful stuff.
whatever,
Yeah.
if somebody threw the gauntlet down on Trump, what would you think he would do?
I
You think he would say, "Oh, sure, I'll meet you in I'll meet you where Hamilton had his duel with Burr."
I'm going to hire somebody to meet you there.
That's right. That's right. I'm
Hold
working-
him while I hit him.
I'm working on this duel concept as something that maybe is something from America's past that might make America great again. I don't know. I don't advocate violence. Don't
No, I know. We can't.
send your letters to Tom. So,
We'll work this out.
but honestly,
It's just, you know what? We're both men of middle age, and we've been
Yeah.
around for a long
Oh,
time.
you're being kind to me.
And but
Yeah.
I've had presidents that I disagreed with. I had presidents that I voted for, and then I didn't agree with. But I never had a president where I felt like this guy doesn't know how the government works.
Well, I mean, it's clear he doesn't. And it's not that we haven't had presidents in the past who never held elective office. I mean, Eisenhower,
Yeah.
General Grant, but those guys prosecuted wars.
Yes.
And in the case of Eisenhower, he had to deal with General de Gaulle, which is about
Yes, exactly. And Churchill.
Talk
and
about politics and Churchill.
Churchill when he was sober.
And, yes, and a lot of other people. And so he was an administrative general, and he was a great general, and he became a pretty good president. And, Grant followed Andrew Johnson, who was a disaster, and General Grant, and tried to, follow the template that was laid out by Lincoln to bring
Reconstruction.
Reconstruction, and the freed black, the former slaves into benefiting from the 13th and 14th Amendments. He tried to do all those things.
Yeah.
This is a guy that's come in and he's basically saying everything before me has led to this wasteland of a country, and he's standing up there with all these other presidents from different parties.
Yep.
And and he doesn't know. I agree. I don't think he knows what he's talking about.
And let's get the facts for a second. It belies the facts.
Right.
Crime isn't what crime was.
No.
Crime has gone down all across the country.
Right.
I grew up in New York City in the 70s and the 80s where, you could wait 20 minutes for a police officer when you were in trouble. Right. And that's not the case anymore.
Right.
The economy, while we had a real bad thing happen 8 years ago, it's not doing bad.
Right.
I understand people are suffering, but it's not like, we have soup kitchens.
No, and there are people that are hurting out there. There's no doubt about it. But I don't see. That's what's so weird and contradictory about it. Who is he? I mean, is he really? Who is he concerned about in particular? I mean, is it just people that worked in the Rust Belt? I don't get it.
And I don't believe he's really concerned about them at the end of the day. Anyway.
Well,
but you know what? I do understand though. Those folks in the Rust Belt and the old industries. They had a job They worked hard at the job.
Right.
They expected that their children would have a better life than them.
Right.
And now they're looking at it and they're looking at the kids and they're saying, "Where's this kid going to work? You know,
Well,
how are they going to have a better life?" Than
I think that's part of what needs to be said.
Yes.
And
the Democrats did an awful job
well, they did an awful job because
of not appealing to those folks.
no, that used to be their base.
It used to be, yes.
Union workers.
Yep.
You're in a union.
Yes,
You're
I
a
am.
Democrat. That was the base for the Democratic Party, and somewhere along the line, you know, I mean, I hate to use these words because it's cliche, but because I'm on the spot, I can't think of anything better, and so anyway, it's this elitist country
Yes.
club Democrat, no, which you are not.
I believe me, I know.
I know, right? Decided that we were going to play identity politics over, an all-inclusive because they, took the bet that this is where the votes were going to be.
Exactly.
And guess what? They're not all. I mean, it's another form of racism to assume that all Latinos, for example,
gonna
are in
vote for you.
lockstep as Democrats. Whereas what you just said, Tom, is people want to believe that not only are they going to advance, it's not just jobs, it's jobs that are going to help them move up, and then their kids go up on the next level behind them.
That was always the deal.
That was always the dream, anyhow.
You know, you came here from another country.
Right.
The first generation suffered. They
Right.
did menial labor.
But
The
how
next
can anybody?
generation,
And this is the thing about Trump that I don't get. And I might be, I might be conservative in some ways, or right of center in some things. But I don't get how anybody can put their eggs in the basket of a guy who has a record of never doing anything except for himself.
Exactly.
That's what I don't
Exactly.
get. Now, what makes anybody believe that he's going to change and be something
At
other than
70
he's
years
always
old.
been? Yeah. I mean, if people think being a cutthroat businessman and screwing people out of things is the American way, well, that's great. But what makes them think he's going to, at this point, and I'll be the first one to say, hey, if he pulls it off, that's great.
And
But I don't think he will. And
Me
I think,
too, Phil.
past his prelude, and particularly
Exactly.
when you're, at this point, this guy's 70 years old. When is he going to have this epiphany,
Right.
You
You don't grow empathy at 70.
No.
No. If
In
you
fact,
don't have it, but you're not getting it.
No.
It's I feel bad for the folks who voted for him and really because they're yearning for change. They're yearning to have a better America, and that's all good.
right.
And my party
Right.
didn't capitalize on that.
Right.
I'll be upfront. I supported Bernie because I was looking to change things in my party.
Yeah, I know. I remember we had a long
we,
talk about
we had a
this.
long talk,
Yeah.
and then I supported Hillary because I thought she's not nuts.
Well, maybe not the same
No,
way.
not in the same way.
Yeah, right.
But it was hard to do it enthusiastically.
Yeah.
And I get into arguments with my fellow Democrats about this, some of whom really love Hillary Clinton, and I understand that. And there's that's a valid viewpoint. It's just not one that I hold. But when you know you're going to run for president, and let's face it, it wasn't a surprise to her. She didn't wake up one morning and say, I think she.
Yeah.
And you take $250,000 from Goldman Sachs.
Yeah. Well, that was a
Did you
problem.
think it wasn't going to be an issue?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, guys I work with would say that to me.
Yeah. I know. And
it's stuck.
Yeah. I think that, I think the problem with Hillary Clinton was that and everything else. I think
the
it was
baggage.
The baggage, the 20-year, we're going to bring change. I mean, it's like, gosh, when was he president? 1998?
92 to 2000.
Yeah, to 2000. I mean, and I think she gave the impression, and Americans are stubborn people. If they think somebody wants something so badly, they go, "You can't have it." And I think there's a certain amount of truth to that.
And I think at the end of the day, in my opinion, she probably could have been a good president. She's not. She's obviously not a stupid woman. She's a very smart woman,
Yeah.
and she might have done a decent job.
Right.
But the Democrats didn't look at her and say, these are extremely bad negatives and positives.
Yeah.
And you might argue it why that is, but it is.
Right. By the way, I wouldn't count her out for 2020.
Oy.
I mean, it's just like these people are robo-cops, or robo-politicians.
Exactly,
They can't stop. I mean, in 2020 she'll be 74 or whatever age, or 73. I mean, Biden's even talking about running again, although I don't believe him. I think he's just saying that so that he keeps his people around him.
Yeah.
But